Hey guys, it's Angelo, and welcome to the first look of the Havoc Demon Hunter on the World of Warcraft Shadowlands Alpha. The Demon Hunter, as many specs in Shadowlands, is seeing a lot of interesting, both positive and negative changes. From changes to Blade Dance and Chaos Strike, to changes to Blur or even Chaos Nova, there is definitely a lot to cover. The gameplay currently feels a lot slower than in Battle for Azeroth, and we'll be sure to address the reasons for this in extensive detail. Now, some talents have been shifted into baseline abilities, while others have been completely removed. As the foundation of the spec does remain the same as in Battle for Azeroth, the Demon Hunter remains engaging and very versatile, however with some side effects, especially in comparison to BFA. In this video, I will cover everything that has changed up to this point, giving you guys detailed insights on the structure of this new Demon Hunter Havoc spec. Specifically, we'll be addressing current class changes, so talents, abilities, and removed aspects of the class, as well as giving you my opinion on how the spec is currently looking when considering this for the actual Shadowlands release. Kind of like a personal feedback section, in hopes that the developers will watch this. Now, if you would like to join the discussion with all things related to the Demon Hunter, be sure to join our Discord server with the link in the description box of course, and while you're at it, feel free to subscribe, in order to remain updated on the content of this channel. Now of course there are a lot more Shadowlands videos posted, or rather will be posted, in the upcoming weeks and months, so again, be sure to stick around. Now that being said, and without any further ado, let's go right ahead and have a look. Alright, so the first thing we'll look at will be our abilities. In Shadowlands, all Demon Hunters will have access to a given toolkit of abilities, no matter their spec, so Vengeance or Havoc. Seeing as the Demon Hunter is the newest class in World of Warcraft though, there is not many spells overall which will be shared, and in comparison to most of the classes and specs at least, this list is short. Immolation Aura is now baseline for all Demon Hunters rather than being a talent, and Demon Spite is now baseline for both specs. The Havoc Demon Hunter's resource, Fury, is now a shared resource for both specs as well. I'll address this in more detail once we cover the Vengeance Demon Hunter, as this is more of an interesting change there, but that is all for the shared abilities. Moreover, however, the Havoc Demon Hunter will experience the same changes that all specs in World of Warcraft will experience in Shadowlands to some degree, and that is the reduction in your AoE potential. Blade Dance will now strike to a maximum of 5 enemies for physical damage, and you will not receive a 100% dodge chance while within your Blade Dance any longer. Instead, you will only dodge during the Blade Dance and Metamorphosis, so during your death sweep. The cooldown will go up from 9 seconds to 15 seconds, but will revert back to 9 seconds once the ability is at rank 2, more on that during the later section of this video. Now we'll be talking more about ranks and the according ability changes at that point as well as some other AoE capability changes, as the Demon Hunter has a lot of ranks and cooldown changes which will affect its gameplay over the course of the expansion. Let's talk about our Covenant abilities though. In Shadowlands, the Covenant we choose will grant us the ability to use, so some of them are used actively in combat. From the Curians, we will receive Illusion Decree, which will place a Curian sigil at the target location, which will detonate after 2 seconds, dealing damage and shattering up to 3 lesser soul fragments from enemies which are damaged by that sigil. It is on a 1-minute cooldown, instant cast, and has a 30-yard range. The Ventir grant us the Sinful Brand, branding an enemy and reducing their melee and casting speed by 30%, while also inflicting a dot onto them, dealing shadow damage over 8 seconds. The cool thing here is that when activating Metamorphosis, you will automatically apply Sinful Brand to all nearby enemies. Now of course, as a Havoc Demon Hunter, this applies after your Metamorphosis lands. The Necrolords grant us Fodder to the Flame, and this ability requires a bit of explaining, so please if you can, pay close attention. The Demon Hunter will engage in a duel to the death with the condemned demon, which you will then spawn. Now killing the spawned enemy will release its demon soul, creating a pool of blood. While standing within the blood, you gain 20% attack speed, and all damage dealt to you by enemies will be reduced by 10%. Now the demon which you will spawn will be powerful, and Fodder to the Flame is on a 2-minute cooldown. When entering the fight with this enemy, you will also automatically trigger Metamorphosis for exactly 15 seconds. Very interesting ability, now be sure to keep you updated on its development. Finally, we have the Covenant of the Night Fae, granting us the Hunt. This lets us charge to an enemy, inflicting nature damage and rooting them for 3 seconds. The charged target is then marked, increasing all fury generation on that target when using Demon's Bite by 50%. The Hunt can also be used every 30 seconds to teleport behind that enemy, completely ignoring its line of sight to you. The ability is on a 3-minute cooldown and also seems incredibly cool. Good, so much for our Covenant abilities. I'll be sure to cover them in more detail in an upcoming video, giving you their pros and cons from my point of view, but for now, let's move on and have a look at the talent changes that the Havoc Demon Hunter will receive. When it comes to talents, the Demon Hunter sees exactly 2 changes for PvE in form of new talents, and 1 in form of an existing talent. Firstly, as Immolation Aura is now baseline, we get a talent to replace it, which of course has something to do with our Immolation Aura. Burning Hatred is in our level 25 talent row, and now allows Immolation Aura to generate 50 fury over the course of 6 seconds, basically allowing Immolation Aura to work the same way it did in Battle for Azeroth. This change for me personally is a bit questionable. Immolation Aura is already a key aspect of our rotation, especially in multi-target but also in single target, which means that in BFA we currently always want to play the talent pretty much, given its high fury generation, enabling our entire rotation to work smoothly. Making the spell baseline, however, placing its actual beneficial effect to the talent, almost makes the change feel completely obsolete, because odds will be that we will again be forced to simply play the talent. Apart from specific single target scenarios, of course, that is. Now, the next talent change is found in our level 40 talent row with yet another new talent called Essence Break, replacing Dark Slash. Essence Break slashes all enemies in front of you, dealing chaos damage and increasing the damage your Chaos Strike and Blade Dance deal to them by 40% for the next 8 seconds. While the spell itself is on a, of course, 20-second cooldown. The only change to Dark Slash here is its name, as well as the fact that it also increases Blade Dance damage to the target, rather than only the damage from Chaos Strike. Our last talent change comes in form of Fel Barrage, which will now only strike up to 5 enemies, also being affected by the Shadowlands AoE reduction. These are all the talent changes for the Demon Hunter currently, and accordingly, of course, Immolation Aura as a talent and Dark Slash have been removed in that sense. Good. With the talent changes covered, let's move on to the spec-specific changes, and here we'll be seeing the most changes, so there's definitely a lot to cover. Now, what needs to be mentioned here again is that in Shadowlands, many spells will have more than one rank, increasing in power the higher rank they are. This will happen via simply leveling up, so not all changes are apparent at max level. Blade Dance at rank 2 will reduce the cooldown of Blade Dance by 6 seconds, essentially reverting it back from 15 seconds to 9 seconds at rank 2. Blur's rank 2 will reduce all damage taken by 20% for 10 seconds, as rank 1 of Blur will only increase your chance to dodge by 50%. Chaos Nova at rank 2 will grant a 30% chance to create a lesser soul fragment for each stunned enemy, while Chaos Strike at rank 2 will increase the chance that Chaos Strike will refund 20 fury by 20%. In Shadowlands, Chaos Strike will only have a maximum of 20% chance to refund fury, down from 40%, which is where it is currently, of course until it is rank 2. Darkness rank 2 reduces the cooldown of Darkness by 120 seconds, moving it down from a 5-minute cooldown, which is what it'll be at rank 1, to a 3-minute cooldown at rank 2. Demonic Words will now baseline reduce your magic damage taken by 5%, and this will increase to 10% at rank 2. I-Beam at rank 2 will now deal guaranteed critical strikes, as is currently the case in BFA, and Fel Rush will only have 2 charges at rank 2. Demonic Presence, our mastery, will now only increase movement speed at rank 2, while Metamorphosis at rank 2 will have the Demon Hunter gain 25% haste, just as is the case right now. Now here are some interesting changes. Metamorphosis at rank 3 will reduce the cooldown of Metamorphosis by 60 seconds, while Metamorphosis at rank 4 will immediately reset the cooldown of I-Beam and Blade Dance, essentially transforming our Azerite trait Chaotic Transformation into a fixed Metamorphosis mechanic. Now, the table we have, or rather now new to the table, we have Unrestrained Fury, which increases our maximum Fury by 20%, or rather by 20 Fury, while Vengeful Retreat at rank 2 will reduce the movement speed of nearby enemies by 70% for 3 seconds. Okay, all in all, the Havoc Demon Hunter, to no surprise, looks very solid and quite promising. All Covenant abilities look pretty cool and seem to complement the SPEC's playstyle, and it'll be exciting to see how legendary items and the entire Covenant progression will tie into the way that the Demon Hunter plays in Shadowlands. Some changes I feel are perhaps not so good, very specifically the new talent choice of Burning Hatred. As stated before, this will allow Immolation Aura to work the way it currently does in BFA, which should have just been made baseline, rather than splitting the ability into a baseline part, which is the damage, and into a talent part, which is its effect. Another issue I currently see is the fact that our stat multipliers from Battle for Azeroth in form of Azerite traits are gone. Without Furious Gaze, the Demon Hunter will play very slowly, with long I-Beam channels and no real haste windows where we can smash a lot of buttons outside of Metamorphosis. How this will ultimately pan out in Shadowlands remains to be seen, of course, but overall the spec seems to be going in a direction which is very acceptable. What do you think? Are you liking these Demon Hunter changes so far? How do you feel about the Immolation Aura change itself? What about the 5 target cap for some of our spells and talents? I'd be excited to know what you have to say in the comments below or on our Discord server, where you can come, of course, into contact with other WoW players who may very well share your views. As always, thank you very much for watching, and a special thanks to my supporters over on Patreon. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you wish to remain updated on the content of this channel, feel free to subscribe. Now, have a good one, my friends. Enjoy the remainder of patch 8.3, get excited for Shadowlands, and I will see you all in the next one.